That's not autism. It would really bother me because I just knew in my heart and soul it wasn't narcissistic. I'd been with therapists. I've been with 3 different therapists who've told me so much of it is autism. Why is someone diagnosed with autism? I'm not a doctor, therapist, coach. I am Diana. I live with someone who is autistic, and he was diagnosed late in life. We've been together 15 years. I am a Cassandra sister because Cassandra Syndrome comes from not being believed. So one of the things that I first want to talk about is autism mild was once Asperger's. We don't say Asperger's anymore. Historically, not a good name. So we've changed it to autism mild. Now, as a Cassandra sister, it's kind of been another gut punch for us because when you mention autism, you don't think of men like ours. When you say Asperger's, it feels different. Do you know what I mean? But it's not Asperger's anymore. Not a good name. I like autism mild. Although the world kind of hasn't caught up. You hear me? Hear what I'm saying? All right, so let's dive into some of the traits that give someone a diagnosis that they're autistic or the awareness that they have autistic. Tendencies, traits, autism. Okay, autism, you're born with it, period. It's neurological, you're born with it. Now, let's look at, oh my gosh, I'm done with that one. Some traits of autism. I got this from healthline.com. Difficulty in starting or maintaining relationships. The whole social aspect is really difficult for someone with autism. Feeling or showing empathy. Now, before you turn off, click me off there. Yes, they have empathy. They have a hard time showing it, hard time processing it, hard time understanding it. Just imagine the emotional aspect when you already have a hard time with social interactions and the social norm of this world that kind of defines our emotions in a certain way. And they have to be acted out a certain way. So then you have trouble paying attention, listening to others, again, the social aspect, and then trouble with daily functioning, going to work, being around people. Our world is full of people we have to deal with. It's hard enough for us. We have, how many communication stuff do we have to figure out how to just get along? Let's go into one more thing. Autistic people may act like narcissists because they may act like they are very critical of other people. And also really have a hard time admitting that they're wrong. So, very narcissistic. Very common with autistic. Also, appearing to be self-absorbed. Yeah, so these portray the narcissism, of course. Okay, I will add this to the autism traits, the mind blindness. Mind blindness is the inability to put yourself into other shoes, which also goes to the, again, emotional side of it. So if I'm talking to a person who is autistic and telling them all about something I went through, if they didn't go through it, they may mask and think of maybe a television show that they saw with that same situation and act out according to that television show. The mild autistic people who are out in this world, and some are extremely financially successful, extremely intellectually intelligent, but that whole social norm and emotions, they tend to pretend just to fit in. Back to the main topic, that isn't autism, or is it? So, throughout the years that I was trying to figure out what was going on, I would go into groups and I would explain situations that were very intense. Like, we get into the nitty-gritty because when you find someone that understands, you talk about it. It is just intoxicating because you feel that kinship, you feel that kindred spirits, and you talk about difficulties. There are groups that say Asperger's, there's groups that say autism, there's groups that say Cassandra sisters. So a lot of the groups that I've been in has been kind of around the Cassandra sister vibe. So we get really in depth with it because Cassandra sisters, there's kind of a main theme with us that our men were diagnosed late. We went into the marriage having no clue about autism. And we've spent a lot of years pretty much going crazy trying to make it work and doing all the heavy lifting. So we're kind of not happy. So we really dig into it. And I've said situations with my partner that sound not autism. Now, when we get into the nitty-gritty of comorbid things, it gets really fuzzy. And the reason I say this, and I'm just going to say a big one, is narcissism. There's so much talk about that, how to distinguish between autism and narcissism. Autism you're born with. Narcissism is ingrained, a personality disorder that develops through time. Okay, now with that. Well, all right. Now, narcissistic, oh gosh, let me get comfortable here. So there are very similar actions that an autistic person does or says that could be taken as narcissism. So let's just look in the differences between autism and narcissism. Autistic people have restricted and repetitive behavior. Narcissists don't. That is one kind of key thing you can look at. Again, you could have an autistic person who also has narcissistic personality disorder. But many of the times we get that confused. And here's the thing. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. In the long run, the diagnosis of what is it, what are the traits, what's going on, is not as important as how your relationship, your whole relationship works in that dynamic way, and how to be kind to yourself, give yourself what you need for your health and your mind and spirit. So one of the things I want to talk about that I listed here is unempathetic. Okay, let's see the difference. So empathy, a person with narcissism, they're self-absorbed and just thinking about themselves, where a person with autism doesn't know how to process the empathy to show it. So they seem to be self-absorbed. So it acts very the same. And I'm not talking about differences in here so you can pick it apart. I'm talking about both things affect a partner the same way. So think about that. All right. And then there's the subject of preoccupation, where narcissists are in this fantasy world about themselves, where autistic people will focus on an object, like the special interest. So then we go into motivation. The motivation of autistic people, they may seem arrogant or self-absorbed, and that's just to cover up. It's the masking because of the social interactions that are very troubling to them, where a narcissist, they don't empathize because they feel superior. Back in the day, and we talk about this so much, they just weren't given the tools. So it's going to develop harsher aspects of the person. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're narcissistic. Maybe they don't have the comorbidity of narcissistic personality disorder, but they have the parts of the autism spectrum may be more extreme because they were not given the help that they needed as children and the understanding. So it's just going to make it so much harder for them to relate to this world. And it's much easier to be negative than positive. We know that. So I'm going to talk about the abuse that happens in relationship. And that's the last time I'm going to use that word, because I really want, I want to grow my channel. I want the algorithm to like me. So I'm only going to use that word one time. I'm going to use a different word instead. All right, so there is financial ill treatment that can happen. Okay, not good. If you look up financial mistreatment, you will see very specific things about financial issues with relationships that can be very harmful. And I have had a taste of it in my relationship. But here's the thing, we're not married. Logically, our monies don't combine. So for so many years, when my mind was thinking we live like a married couple, we live in the same house like a married couple, it should be combined, it never was. And I just kept thinking that it was. not understanding his logic until, I don't know, 3 months ago, when it was discussed that, well, we're not married. If we were married, it'd be combined. We're not married, so it's not combined. Simple, boom, done. But in my mind, I felt financially mistreated for many, many years. And guess what? I was. By the different brains and the different way that we thought what life is. So that makes me want to dig into this one. I'm going to skip over some of them. There is, let me come back to you. Let me find this. Okay, intellectual mistreatment. So am I mistreating my person for having this channel? Am I talking ill of him? There's a fine line there. Now, Cassandra groups, I'm sorry, Cassandra sisters, we have got to be careful with ourselves and building up that anger that hurts us in the long run. And if we are villainizing our men, that's pointing back at us. I know you hate to hear this, and I hate to hear it, because I have had situations where, oh my goodness, horrible, horrible. I never want to say, he is this way, he's hardcore, he's a bad person, putting him down, because that's abuse. That's mistreatment to him. And again, it's a fine line. If you are amongst, and we do have a private group, or you among sisters and just want to hash it out, but know at the end of the day, this is a person you're talking about who has autism. Now, there are some of us in the Cassandra groups where our person may have narcissistic personality disorders, may have sociopathic tendencies, may be someone where there needs to be a lot more than a Cassandra group to go to, that you need serious help. And mistreatment is something you need to get help with and protect yourself. You gotta, really be aware of that. But it's hard, and because there's not enough out there to really help us through this, we are learning this all on our own as Cassandra sisters and what the whole variables are. But at the end of the day, mistreatment is mistreatment, and to get help with that, no matter what it is in your partner, it doesn't matter anymore. It's up to you to take care of yourself. So let's go back to emotional ill treatment. So Psychology Today says emotional ill treatment is a pattern of behavior that aims to control and manipulate someone through insults, humiliation, and fear. So when I look at, a lot of times like our men don't tell us we're beautiful, or don't tell us this or that, and a lot of it is kind of comes back to that emotional stuff that's hard for them to process. And it may just come down kind of like a high school silliness where they're teasing you. Now, as an adult, we're adults, and it does come across as mistreatment. It does come across as that word that I won't say, that is very harmful to the relationship because it's putting you down. But to them, it's just funny. Just funny. But the thing is, between a narcissist and if he's autistic or narcissistic, it still goes the same way. A narcissist will put you down for their gain. An autistic person will put you down because they just don't know any better. They just think it's funny. Both the same pain for us. All right. Mental ill treatment is about gaslighting. Now, narcissists gaslight all the time for their personal gain. Autistic people, they simply will forget because it has to do with you. Now, I know that you might argue with me on this, and sometimes they may gaslight just to get out of a bad situation that they emotionally can't handle. The really strong emotion or something that they need to do that they just can't handle, they will do that gaslighting to get out of the situation, where a narcissist will gaslight to have gain. Is it similar? Absolutely. Is the autistic person gaining something by gaslighting just like the narcissistic person is? Yes. but it's different intentions. All right, again, the same thing. That's why we Cassandra sisters benefit from people who talk about narcissism and how to handle people with narcissism, because it's kind of all that's out there for us. So one of the things that you do when you're with a narcissistic person is you gray rock. I do the same thing with my autistic person, is I gray rock because he can't handle the emotion. And I just say things specifically on topic. Not easy to do. I think that's it. Oh. That's it. So here's the point to this whole thing. Is that we as Cassandra sisters married to someone with autism, it could simply be the autism. It could simply be autism. It's not more than autism. It could be the autism doing the gaslighting, putting you down, saying things to you that just aren't very nice. It could be the autism. And as far as saying it's more than autism, then our brains go, okay, what now? What do we do? If you're with someone who is that mistreating of you, where you can't speak up, I hope that you have a lot of support. I hope that you can take care of yourself as much as you can. And one day at a time to just keep moving forward. So with that, is it autism? Or is that not autism? Bottom line, how do you feel in your house with your person? And what do you need to do about it? What do you need to do next? There are different ways that we can do these relationships in a loving manner, to not have to go with fear and anger and pain, and become, again, that beautiful person. Easier said than done. So with that, take care of yourself, do the next thing, move forward, and you have support. You're never ever alone. All right, take care.